kind of where I feel this game's going to fall into, but I'm there with you. I'm going to ride with the Saints. I talked about them before the NFL playoffs started. You asked me a question who I thought. Wasn't really sure on the AFC side at that point, but I felt comfortable with the Saints. They have the home field advantage. I feel they got their bad game out of them. They started to get some of their mojo back working. I do think they're going to loosen things up a bit on the offensive side. It seemed like they played really tight, and that's going to happen when the first play of the game you come out and you take a deep shot and it gets intercepted. I think that sort of changes your game plan and mindset, especially when the Eagles come down and capitalize with a deep ball of their own. So I do think that it'll be the Saints. I'm going to agree with you on that one. So we know he's going to represent the NFC. When we come back from this short break, we'll talk about the AFC. Not quite as much excitement on the AFC side, but we've got one heck of a championship game. We'll break down that when we come back. Welcome back. Let's break down the AFC side of things. We know the two teams that'll be playing. Let's talk about how we got to this Patriots-Chiefs matchup that's going to take place on Sunday. Last Saturday afternoon, the first game of the divisional round was the Colts at the Chiefs. And boy, it was a lot of Chiefs in this game. The Colts did not show up offensively at all. So, Eric, looking at this game, were you more impressed by what the Chiefs did or just simply more disappointed in the Colts' performance?
Yeah, that's a good question because I don't know that it's completely mutually exclusive. However, I'm leaning a lot more to the Colts being flat. We want to talk about the Saints being flat. Let's talk about the Colts being flat. They just came out of that tunnel with no pizzazz at all. And I mean none. Offensively, defensively. The Chiefs, obviously at Arrowhead, jumped all over them. And that didn't really surprise me. So you talk about how well the Chiefs played. I wasn't terribly surprised by that. We've seen the Chiefs be able to put points up on the board like that. And we talked about it last week. I thought this was going to be a shootout back and forth. The way Luck was playing, the way that the Indianapolis Colts came into this pretty hot, I felt like, yeah, the Chiefs were going to score a lot of points, but then the Colts would score a lot too. And I think I said at the end that it was going to be the difference of Patrick Mahomes. He would be the kind of the top difference maker in this game. They didn't need Patrick Mahomes to be the top difference maker. In fact, if I'm remembering correctly, I don't believe he threw for a touchdown in this game. And so he wasn't the top difference maker in this game. The fact that Andrew Luck couldn't get anything going, I think at the 2-minute warning, Justin, I texted you that he had 18 passing yards in the first half at the 2-minute warning. Completely unacceptable. And the Chiefs' defense is not that good. They just aren't. So we talked about them being the weakness of the Chiefs getting through this AFC playoff run would be their defense. And Luck couldn't get anything done. Meanwhile, the only points they scored in a long portion of this game was the blocked punt, and they luckily fell on it in the end zone for 7. That's it. Other than that, the Chiefs were railroading them. So I'm going to have to answer this without a doubt. The Colts were a huge disappointment.
Yeah, I've got to agree with you. I thought the way that the Colts came out, Eric, they just looked like they wanted to be anywhere else but in a frigid place like KC with snow on the field. They looked every bit of why you get the whole dome team playing outside in the cold because they just didn't look good. And even in the pregame, Chris Sims talked about the fact that Andrew Luck looked like he was struggling, and he came out on that first drive, and it looked like you or I under center just throwing the ball into the ground, off target. And it really played right into what the Chiefs' strength is. You talked about this Chiefs' defense has been exposed throughout the year, especially in their secondary. But the one piece that they do have is just great pass rushers. And the Colts allowed themselves to fall behind in this game. And really, Kansas City just got to turn the pass rush loose and just make things difficult on Luck all game long. The Colts just looked awful. And when you look at the fact that their two most reliable players, and Andrew Luck and Adam Vinatieri, both struggled. You had Vinatieri miss an extra point and then miss a field goal. The fact that they were even still alive in this game, the fact that they cut it to 11, and that game could have been a one-possession game if Vinatieri just makes a kick that he makes all the time, the shortest miss he's ever had, and then he misses an extra point. The fact that they were still in this game kind of lends me to think that there's also a little bit of this where I'm not impressed with the Chiefs. They could have ended this a lot sooner. I thought they got a little bit conservative, it felt like, or they kind of let Mahomes get beat up in this game more than I've seen him all season long, where their line sort of let them down. He took some big shots. He ended up coming out limping on the one play. So I really felt like the Colts left it open to really get themselves blown out. And it wasn't until they got that late touchdown that really pushed the lead up to 18 It really felt like the Chiefs were in a comfortable position. So, Eric, let's swing it over to Sunday because, again, these AFC games, they were not good games. They were pretty much a letdown. And the Patriots came out and absolutely rolled the Chargers. Now, the talk has been from the media, a lot of media all season long. And if you've listened to our show, we've talked about the Patriots a lot, and we've talked about pumping the brakes, that they're not done. We really pushed that when they were able to get that number 2 seed and get the bye from the fact that, hey, you know what? They just seem to find a way to be able to get it done. But I thought that this Chargers team just had all the pieces to be able to come into Foxborough and give them a battle, and they did not. They looked absolutely gassed in this game. But, Eric, you know the Patriots, they're sitting there, they're reading all this stuff, they're watching it. You saw the interview after the game with Brady, who came out and said, yeah, everybody thinks we suck and we can't win, so we'll see. So you know that they've got a chip on their shoulder. So do you feel like last Sunday they really tried to come out and prove that they are the kings of the AFC?
Oh, for sure. Tom Brady is definitely not my favorite player of all time, but he is the greatest of all time. And I can't really take that away from him as much as I can't stand the Patriots. Remember, we just talked about I'm a Jets fan. So the Patriots, they just get under my skin like none other. But I have nothing but respect for Tom Brady's ability on the field. His game planning, his preparation, obviously Bill Belichick's a big part of that. Was there a chip on his shoulder? It would be hard to deny that there wasn't. 343 passing yards for a guy who's 40 plus. And they did all that damage, Justin, with Gronkowski getting 1 catch for 25 yards. Chris Hogan had 13 yards. Guys that we talked about might have an impact, like Burkhead, he only had 7 yards receiving and really nothing to speak of rushing, 12 yards. But how, if you're the Chargers, do you let the same guy catch 15 passes for 97 yards? How do you let the same guy catch 9 balls for 151 yards? I don't understand where the Chargers were at in this game. I really don't. And that included a guy having over 120 rushing yards. This Patriots offense got shot out of a cannon. I mean, this game was over within, what would you say, Justin, 10 minutes?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it felt like with 6 minutes to go in the first quarter, it was like, oh, I guess I can just kill some time now and look forward to the Saints-Eagles game, because it felt like it was over. And I don't know, when you were watching this game, did you just feel like the Chargers just flat ran out of gas from all the travel that they've had to do back and forth from the East Coast? Or was the fact that they sort of tried to roll out the same defensive style against the Patriots, who we know week in, week out are the best team at individually game planning for what you're going to throw at them?
Oh, I saw a couple of things. I think your first point is a very valid point, and I think it's something I'm going to argue, especially this year, that the NFL really needs to consider the fact that football is a tougher sport than some of these other sports, that even basketball has conference standings and they're seeded based on their conference percentage. In football, it's still divisional. So you have a team in the Chargers who had a better record than the teams that they're traveling to play in the playoffs, and they're a West Coast team coming into Baltimore and then coming into New England. How is that fair for a team that had a better regular season record? Now, I've debated this with a couple of people on Twitter and other people who, they've said, well, the Chargers weren't even the best team in their division, so how should they get an opportunity to have any advantage in the playoffs? Okay, I get that. That's an old school way of thinking, and I understand that, but it works very well in basketball to seed them based on their conference. And I think football should consider that. So I think there's a lot to that. I think the Chargers maybe were burned out, but I'm going to go back to what we said last week, and we've said it before. I just think that the Patriots' game planning is second to none, as much as I can't stand them. And you give them 2 weeks to play a team that's burned out, and they're going to find a way to expose you. Sony Michel ran all over them. James White, he was all over the field. Like I said, 15 receptions. The Patriots just found a weakness, and they exploited it early and often. Like we said, 10 minutes, 6 minutes in, something like that. It just felt like it was over. But to me, Justin, when you talk about that weariness, you talk about that travel, I saw a lot of quit. And I don't mean that in the sense that, they didn't want to win. But I saw just a defeatist attitude from the posture and the demeanor of those players. It was almost like the Chargers felt like, wow, we just got absolutely blasted here, and we just don't have the energy to keep up.
No, they just came out and got straight punched in the mouth. 4 straight drives and 4 touchdowns, that will probably do it to you, especially if you really aren't 100% in terms of your energy level and the fact that you might just be a little bit worn out versus a team that's very fresh. But I thought, to your point, it was the theme of the weekend. And what you talked about is how do you let two guys beat you? It seemed like that was the theme of the weekend. That does anybody like watch film? I mean, when you're looking at the Chiefs, you know it's going to be a lot of Tyreek Hill and a lot of Travis Kelce. And those guys absolutely destroyed the Colts. It's like they just decided, okay, we'll just let them go get theirs. And then you saw Gurley go get his in that game. And then you turn around to the Sunday game. It was all James White and all Edelman. They had 30 targets between the two of them. And you flip it to Sunday night, Michael Thomas absolutely destroyed the Eagles. And he's really their only weapon. So it was just like these teams came out, the home teams just had a game plan to be able to get their key guys open. And from the defensive side, I don't know if they just didn't have the time or what they were trying to do, but it just feels like, man, we talk about from the NBA side, it's like you can't let LeBron go out and score 40 points in a game and have 15 assists. You've got to pick one or the other. And it's almost like these teams it's just like they didn't have an answer. It's like, you've got to figure out a way to take Julian Edelman out. Have Chris Hogan beat you. Have Dorsett beat you. But James White is one of the best pass-catching backs in the league, and you let him catch 15 passes? It just felt like from that game plan standpoint, the Patriots were just far and away the better team. So, Rick, that takes us up to the AFC Conference Championship game. It'll be the New England Patriots traveling to Kansas City to play the Chiefs. It looks like it is going to be a very cold game coming up on Sunday. There's an Arctic blast coming through, temperatures in the single digits. So you have the two winningest active coaches in the league matching up in Bill Belichick versus Andy Reid. You have the experience of Brady, but you've got the youth and the insane arm talent of Mahomes. So will it be a 9th Super Bowl trip for Tom Brady, or are the Chiefs ready to take over as the AFC champs?
I got to stick with my pick. A couple weeks back when we started the playoffs, I said it was going to be the Patriots against the Saints. I'm sticking with the Patriots. Now, Patrick Mahomes is probably my favorite player in the league at this point. It was Carson Wentz, and I still love Wentz. I still hope that the Eagles are all in on Wentz, and he's probably my second favorite player in the league now, but there's nothing like watching Patrick Mahomes. I've watched a lot of Chiefs games this year, and I'm not a fan of the Chiefs, but I've watched them simply because Patrick Mahomes is electrifying. However, he got through last week with no touchdowns, made some really good plays, really kept a lot of those plays alive like he does that should have been, for most quarterbacks, just 3 and outs, but he keeps them going. But in a frigid weather and with a team like the Patriots who probably have got you figured out now, I think this is going to be a lot harder for the Chiefs than what they might hope. And I think the Patriots, I don't see this one being as high scoring as it was the last time these two teams played. I think that one came down to 43-40 or something like that. I don't think this one's going to be like that, especially with that weather. But I do think the Patriots will find a way to take care of whatever weapons that the Chiefs have. They'll pull this out, Justin. They will. It's just one of those things where Tom Brady getting to a 9th Super Bowl, I don't see any way they're going to stop him. Mahomes and the Chiefs, they're going to have their time. The AFC is going to be theirs very soon, but it's not this year.
No, this was a really difficult game trying to break things down and trying to just look at these two teams, not get so much caught up into the trends of things. But the experience level is just on New England's side at this point. And the fact that you're factoring in the weather, I think the Patriots' run game, I just have a little bit more trust in that. In their short passing game, I feel like if it's so cold that it's going to be in single digits, and I was listening to RJ Bell, who's on Fox Sports, who does a lot of is kind of their Vegas insider, talk about the fact that in single digit games, basically been 11 of them, the unders hit 9 different times. So you sort of think this is going to be a lower scoring, sort of grinded out game. It feels like Kansas City's offense isn't really designed to do that as much. Yeah, they'll use Kelce across the middle, but a lot of their stuff is trying to get Tyreek Hill loose. And if the ball's not traveling as far as Mahomes thinks, or he flutters a few and things get picked off or tipped, or he just can't move the ball up and down the field like they're used to, it just feels like the Patriots will adapt. Brady in that dink and dunk style, just moving the chains, ball control, resting their defense, wearing out the Kansas City defense. And again, outside of their pass rush, they may get Eric Berry back for this game, but Gronk's been pretty much ineffective. So even if Berry takes Gronk out of this game, he didn't really do much in the game against the Chargers and really hasn't done a lot this season anyway. So it doesn't feel like he's going to be a key for them in this matchup. So I got to agree.
I'm going to tell you, if I'm Eric Berry, not to interrupt you there, but if I'm Eric Berry, I'm not coming back from an Achilles injury in a frigid cold game. That's a perfect recipe to tear that thing again.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, this is not a game that's going to be very fun to play. I mean, it almost feels like that matchup, what was it, 3 or 4 years ago, where back in Minnesota, They had a chance to win it, and Blair Walsh missed that easy kick, and that was a freezing cold game there, and how low scoring that game was. So even the